When the crypto market is crashing, sometimes there's a coin or token that's bucking the trend. And one recent example is Helium, whose HNT token was pumping while the rest of the market was dumping. And this begs the question of what Helium is, why its HNT token has been so resilient, and just how high it could go when the crypto bull market goes parabolic. Today, we'll give you all the answers, so stay tuned. I'll start by saying that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's purely educational content intended to inform you about Helium. And I'll also note that nobody at Team Coin Bureau holds HNT in their crypto portfolios at the time of shooting this video, and nor was this video sponsored in any way. But of course, that should go without saying. If you want to know which cryptos we hold and which ones we're personally watching, then join the Coin Bureau Club. In addition to our portfolios and watch lists, we provide objective reviews of promising small cap altcoins voted on by our members every week and provide exclusive altcoin alpha every day. The link will be in the description. That said, it's been more than 2.5 years since we last covered Helium, so we reckon a refresher is in order. Now, Helium was founded way back in 2013 by Amir Halim, Sean Fanning, and Sean Carey. Now, if that second name sounds familiar, that's because Sean is famous for co-founding Napster. And if the date didn't give it away, Helium didn't begin as a crypto project. It began as a software company that was looking to provide solutions for Internet of Things, or IoT networks. Even back then, Helium was a promising project, raising almost $40 million from the likes of Google Ventures. However, Helium had a problem. It was having a hard time incentivizing people to roll out its IoT networks. And when the crypto bull market started in 2016, Amir realized that crypto could provide the solution. And fun fact, it was the Filecoin white paper that convinced Helium to take the leap in 2017. In 2018, Helium released a white paper of its own, and by the end of 2019, it had launched its mainnet. To clarify, Helium originally had its own blockchain. It migrated to Solana in 2023, but we'll come back to that. For now, all you need to know is that Helium raised over $326 million from crypto VCs between 2019 and 2022. If you've been keeping up with our crypto reviews, you'll know this is significant because it's relatively rare for crypto projects to raise money from VCs post-ICO. In Helium's case, 311 of the 326 million was raised post-ICO. And this suggests that crypto VCs are likely bullish on the long-term potential of the project. Not only that, but Helium designed its tokenomics in a way that would minimize selling by insiders while satisfying their appetite for returns. You see, instead of selling HNT, Helium sold so-called security tokens, or HSTs, to investors, and these HSTs give their holders a right to a portion of HNT's future inflation. Unfortunately, Helium seems to have removed the info about HSTs from its website. Fortunately, though, some of this information can be found in Helium's documentation. And as of August 1st, 2022, HST holders were entitled to 32% of HNT's inflation. It's not clear what this percentage is now or who exactly holds these HSTs. In any case, the result was that HNT had no pre-mine and no ICO, and HNT's supply began from zero, and the inflation schedule can be seen right over here. Now, most of it's allocated to operators of Helium's hotspots, which power its networks. For context, HNT has a maximum supply of 233 million, and a portion of HNT's supply is used to back its two relatively new tokens, and those are mobile and IoT. Logically, the mobile token is used on Helium's mobile network, which launched in 2022. We'll come back to that later. And of course, the IoT token is used on Helium's IoT networks, which launched back in 2019. The conversion rate for mobile and IoT to HNT basically depends on demand for their respective networks. Obviously, mobile and IoT deserve their own separate videos, and chances are that our members of Coin Bureau Club will vote for us to cover them at some point. All we'll say here is that all fees on Helium's mobile and IoT networks are paid for using data credits, which are obtained by buying and burning HNT. What this means then is that as the usage of Helium's mobile and IoT networks grows, the more of HNT's supply is burned. And as basic economics dictates, when you have less supply and more or equal demand, then prices tend to go up. And in case it wasn't clear enough, Helium's networks have been growing. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, then smash that like button to let us know. And subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell as well, so you don't miss our next altcoin update. Now, as mentioned earlier, it's been more than 2.5 years since we last covered Helium. It's safe to say that a lot has happened since then, and it goes without saying that we can't possibly fit all the updates into one video. To put things into perspective, we last reviewed Helium in February 2022. It's crazy. Anyways, to refresh your memory, 2022 was when Helium raised $200 million from crypto VCs. Although we covered this in our last review, there's something important to add. In a September 2022 presentation, Amir claimed that this raise came from selling equity in the company. In plain English, the $200 million VC raise apparently did not involve selling HSTs, those security tokens we mentioned earlier. Instead, it involved buying shares in the company that built Helium, which rebranded to Nova Labs in March 2022. For reference, Helium's ongoing development is overseen by the Helium Foundation. This is important to note because it looks like Nova Labs is using Helium as a means of bootstrapping its own growth. In other words, Helium's mobile and IoT networks have been providing Nova Labs with actual revenue, and this is presumably why VCs were happy to buy $200 million of its shares. But we'll come back to that later too. Now, after rebranding to Nova Labs, the company announced its plan to turn Helium into a network of networks. And this meant that Helium would no longer just be an IoT network with its HNT token, which was still a coin back then, but Helium would also introduce new kinds of networks, starting with a 5G network. Naturally, this would include the launch of new tokens, starting with mobile and IoT tokens. Helium subsequently launched a new wallet, which would make it possible to redeem mobile and IoT for HNT, and then burn the HNT for data credits. And this Helium wallet has since been downloaded 100,000 times on Android. FYI, this all happened in the spring of 2022, and by the summer of 2022, things started looking a lot less bullish for Helium. First, its blockchain had an outage, and then a hit piece report revealed that its IoT network was generating next to no fees, of course, ignoring the fact that the trend was at least going in the right direction. It seems that this FUD made everyone miss the news that Nova Labs had quietly acquired FreedomFi, the company that was making its 5G devices. Amir subsequently revealed that this was part of its strategy to get involved in the mobile ecosystem, as FreedomFi had the right connections and licenses. By the autumn of 2022, the sentiment around Helium was starting to turn bullish again. First, Nova Labs signed a partnership with telecom giant T-Mobile to bring 5G coverage to unsupported regions in the US. And then Helium tabled a proposal to migrate to Solana. At first, this seemed like the worst decision ever. Besides the fact that the announcement alienated many hardcore Helium fans, it also resulted in Binance delisting HNT in October, and Binance US followed suit in March 2023. While it's possible that these delistings happened because of concerns around HNT's status as a security when it turned into a token, we think there could be a bigger reason, but that's a topic for another time. Regardless, the real blow to Helium's bullish trend was the collapse of FTX in November 2022. Given that Helium had attached itself to Solana and Solana was kind of attached to FTX, it did extra damage to the HNT token and made the hardcore Helium community even more skeptical about the migration. Thankfully, there were a few optimists, like billionaire Bill Ackman, who said out of the blue that he was bullish on HNT. And Helium also made it clear that it would not abandon Solana in its darkest hour. In fact, Helium Mobile announced that it would be giving a free trial of its mobile plan to Saga phone holders. Now, that reminds me, Helium Mobile was revealed in September 2022 and pitched as a, quote, crypto carrier rather than a standard mobile carrier. Among the differences was the economic flywheel that incentivizes peer-to-peer 5G coverage. And the similarity was that it's still technically controlled by a company, Nova Labs. On that note, in February 2023, Nova Labs revealed that it had launched a new IoT division called 1663. The blog post specified that the new company would provide IoT solutions to institutions that leverage Helium's IoT networks. To be honest, it looks like it was launched just to appease Helium's IoT users. In case you missed it, Helium's network was initially an IoT network. According to the Helium website, people bought over 1 million Helium hotspots to earn HNT. And in case you forgot, owners of Helium's IoT hotspots started earning the IoT token instead after it was launched. And not everyone was happy. From watching interviews with Amir, we get the impression that he was hyper aware of this and constantly promising to do a whole bunch of stuff that would leverage Helium's IoT network. And yet there have been almost no posts from 1663 since the start of the year. It's been all Helium Mobile. But again, more on that later. Now in April 2023, Helium migrated to Solana, and this meant moving HNT, mobile, and IoT tokens from Helium's blockchain to the Solana blockchain. Oddly enough, there was no mention of the HST token being migrated, but Helium's documentation confirms that it was, and that HSTs still earn HNT. Notably, Amir revealed in an interview that the migration only affected the tokens, and it seems that Helium's mobile and IoT networks are otherwise run entirely off-chain. And Helium's documentation notes that its IoT network is run by a series of servers, likely owned and operated by Nova Labs. Whatever the case, in June 2023, Helium introduced on-chain governance via Solana's realms, which is analogous to Snapshot on Ethereum. Helium seems to have since built out a custom governance dashboard where HNT holders can vote on Helium improvement proposals or HIPs. Speaking of which, it's worth mentioning that Helium has surprisingly effective governance. Unlike most other crypto projects we've analyzed, Helium's community seems to be incredibly engaged. This might have something to do with the fact that holders of vote escrowed HNT or VHNT earn mobile and IoT, but more on that in a moment. Now, at the end of 2023, Helium Mobile launched its own custom hotspots. To bring you up to speed, there are hotspots for each of Helium's networks, and there are also multiple manufacturers for these hotspots. And they all use the same standards, and they're all vetted by the Helium Foundation. Deepen indeed. Shortly afterwards, Helium Mobile announced the launch of its low-cost mobile plan in the US, offering unlimited talk, text, and data for just $20 per month. In July this year, Helium Mobile's plan hit over 100,000 signups, meeting the end-of-year predictions that asset manager Van Eck had for the plan. If that wasn't bullish enough, Nova Labs partnered with Mexican telecom giant Telefonica in January this year, foreshadowing a rollout of Helium Mobile plans in Mexico. Helium Mobile actually has a page about its Telefonica partnership on its website. For now, it just notes that it's supporting Telefonica's existing coverage. At the same time, Nova Labs penned a partnership with Google to provide exclusive deals to those who buy Google's Pixel phone. And purchasers of certain Pixel phones could get up to 12 months of free Helium Mobile coverage, as well as discounts of up to 25% on purchases of Helium's mobile hotspots. And the bullishness just kept on coming. In March, Helium Mobile launched international roaming, which of course means that subscribers would still get signal with other carriers when traveling outside the US. In May, Helium Mobile launched group plans, making its phone services even more affordable and accessible. And in July, Helium Mobile announced licensing for any other companies that want to manufacture its hotspots. To our understanding, this means that Nova Labs was the only manufacturer of Helium Mobile hotspots until very recently. And the July blog post noted the first external manufacturer, which was a company called MNTD. Anyhow, HNT's price action isn't surprising when you consider all the milestones that I just mentioned, and I'll reiterate that this is just a fraction of the updates Helium has had since we last covered it. As you can see, HNT collapsed not long after our last review, and it didn't really start recovering until late last year. This was due to a combination of three factors, and one of which we discussed. That's the launch of Helium Mobile's plans in December 2023. Another factor that caused HNT to recover was Sol's recovery last autumn. And as one of the blue chips in Solana's ecosystem, Sol's rally took HNT on a tear too. The third factor is one that everyone seems to have forgotten, and that's the gradual decline in interest rates which began in November 2023. For those unaware, falling interest rates tend to be bullish for risk assets, including crypto. The spike in yields in October 2023 marked the bottom for many alts. This combination of bullish macro and crypto factors is why HNT was surging so much earlier this year. Even though it collapsed with the rest of the crypto market over the summer, recent crypto headwinds haven't stopped HNT's recovery. We suspect this is because HNT's fundamentals continued to improve. According to Helium's documentation, data on Helium Mobile's network costs 50 cents per gigabyte, paid for in data credits which you'll recall are created by burning HNT. According to Helium Mobile statistics dashboards, its hotspots have provided over 2.43 petabytes of data for Helium Mobile users. As some of you will know, 1 petabyte equals 1 million gigabytes. So 2.43 petabytes means 2.43 million gigabytes. At 50 cents per gigabyte, this means that HNT has experienced over $1.2 million of de facto buybacks and burns since the start of the year. And the most eye-opening part is the trend. It's up only. On the supply side, historical data from CoinGecko suggests that HNT's supply has grown by about 25 million since January. Assuming an average price of around $5 per HNT, this means that it experienced a maximum of $125 million of sell pressure, not really much over a 9-month period. To be fair, the potential sell pressure is a drop in the bucket compared to the HNT buybacks. But that doesn't factor in the strongest demand driver of all, speculation. You see, Helium is arguably one of the top crypto projects. Full stop. This is because it actually has fundamentals and real-world adoption. As a cherry on top over there, it has a narrative that retail investors can understand. It has a lowish price tag that gives the impression of massive gains, is listed on most major exchanges and is therefore accessible to investors. And most of HNT's supply is also in circulation, and Helium's market cap is just 1.2 billion at the time of shooting this video. Never mind that Helium is also the top crypto project in one of the top crypto niches, and that's Deepin. Considering that Helium Mobile's exponential growth has only begun and seems likely to continue, there's very little doubt, in our minds at least, that HNT will surpass its previous highs of $50 in this cycle. And that would be about a 6 to 7 times from its current price, and would still result in a market cap less than $10 billion. When you realize that some meme coins came close to hitting a market cap of $100 billion during the last cycle, it seems plausible, if not probable, that Helium could hit a market cap in the tens of billions near HNT's peak. And this would translate to returns as high as 40 times between today's price and the cycle top. And if you want to maximize your HNT returns, then you need to check out the Coin Bureau deals page. You see it's got trading fee discounts of up to 70% and sign-up bonuses of up to $100,000 on the best crypto exchanges. These deals are only available to viewers of the Coin Bureau channel, and they won't be around for long. So take advantage of them ASAP using the link in the description. Now, whether HNT can pull a 40x ultimately depends on its upcoming milestones. In case you haven't noticed, Helium technically has multiple roadmaps, as it has multiple networks. You might remember that Helium's highest level roadmap was published back in 2022, and that was to create a network of networks. Amir mentioned in a presentation in June 2022 that a Wi-Fi network was also in the works, but it seems to have fallen by the wayside. And this is expected given the enormous success of Helium Mobile, which has doubtless been the focus of Nova Labs. Helium Mobile's upcoming milestones can be found in its HIPs, you know, those Helium improvement proposals. Helium Mobile's two most recent HIPs are the creation of a data-only mobile hotspot and minimizing the ability for hotspot operators to game the system, i.e. to earn tokens without providing valuable coverage. The former is likely to result in more HNT burns due to increased data usage, while the latter will ensure that fewer mobile tokens are going to hotspot operators who are just farming and looking to dump. As for Helium's IoT network, its most recent HIP involves introducing vote escrow to IoT. Without getting too technical, vote escrow will require IoT token holders to lock up their tokens to vote on proposals. In exchange, they will earn a portion of IoT rewards, just like the VNT holders do now. The practical effect of this should result in less IoT being sold as people lock up their tokens to vote and earn yield. In turn, this will result in less HNT being sold, as IoT is technically backed by HNT, as you'll recall. As for Helium itself, the most recent HIP approved the creation of an energy-focused network. Per the HIP, quote, the subnetwork aims to reward users who participate in solar power production and battery energy storage. It seeks to collect data from and offer control of connected solar power and battery resources, creating a virtual power plant to support grid stability and energy management. Interestingly, the HIP specifies that compatible IoT hotspots will be able to earn the energy token by helping support the energy network. And this is interesting because it's further evidence to the idea that IoT hotspot operators feel like they've been left in the dust after Nova Labs drove away with Helium Mobile. And this brings me to the challenges that we foresee for Helium. The first challenge is adoption, not by users, but by hotspot operators. According to Helium Mobile's Coverage Explorer, there are only around 15,000 mobile hotspots in operation, plus around 5,000 radio devices, but let's not go there. As you can hopefully see, the coverage of these 20,000 hardware hubs isn't very large. The fact that a HIP was passed to create a data-only mobile hotspot also suggests that the existing hotspots, they're just not cutting it. And this would explain why there have been mixed reviews of Helium Mobile's plans. This is in stark contrast to Helium Mobile's IoT network, whose 400,000 or so hotspots light up most of the Western world in its own Explorer. You'll remember that Helium's website says over 1 million devices were sold, with an average price in the hundreds of dollars. That's hundreds of millions spent. Hundreds of millions for a massive peer-to-peer IoT network that seems to be experiencing minimal usage, minimal investment, and minimal attention from the team that created it, at least for now. And it's easy to see why a large portion of the Helium community would feel so betrayed by this. And it's easy to see how a large portion of the Helium community would then be hesitant to purchase another more expensive hotspot to power Helium's next-generation networks. Make no mistake, the fact that the mobile network launched last year is also a contributing factor to its low hotspot count. Even so, there seems to be some tensions brewing within the HNT community, and these tensions will likely increase as more networks are added and more tokens backed by HNT are thrown into the mix. This ties into Helium's second challenge, and that's competition. Not from other crypto projects per se, but from other emerging telecom giants. The elephant in the room here is, of course, Starlink, which also recently partnered with T-Mobile to bring internet to mobile phone users in the US from Starlink's satellites. As amazing as the Helium Mobile narrative is, The fact of the matter is that mobile coverage provided from space is probably going to be superior to any mobile coverage provided from the ground. And that's simply because with space coverage, you will always have internet, no matter where you are. In Helium Mobile's case, the HNT token will only benefit when its users are leveraging its hotspots, which, as we discussed, have been relatively slow to roll out. Again, this could change as time goes on, but the fact that Helium is launching new networks suggests Helium Mobile could end up like Helium IoT, and chances are that Helium Mobile hotspot operators can see this too, at least those paying attention. And this relates to Helium's third challenge, and that's sustainability, not in terms of environmental stuff, but in terms of its evolution. Funnily enough, Helium's upcoming energy network is a perfect way to explain. You see, back during the pandemic, Helium hotspots were reportedly hit by supply chain disruptions. Not sure if you've noticed, but relations between the US and China, they haven't been the best lately. And not sure if you know, but most renewable energy stuff like solar panels and batteries is made in China. It seems that regardless of who wins in November, there will be a trade war affecting these supply chains. I mean, the West is already putting tariffs on Chinese EVs because they're too cheap. The key takeaway is that at the end of the day, Helium needs physical hardware for its decentralized networks to work. And most of this hardware is probably made in China or using components that were made in China. Again, this is practically guaranteed for the devices on Helium's energy network. What comes after November could therefore be bearish for HNT, regardless of who wins. But who knows? Maybe Helium's next network will decentralize manufacturing with a token called Build. In all seriousness, all the challenges that Helium faces, they're long-term ones. In the short to medium term, Helium doesn't seem to have any tangible challenges. On the contrary, Helium seems to have advantages that essentially no other crypto project has, and this has been reflected in HNT's resilience. And since the crypto bull market is likely to peak sometime over the next year or so, the short to medium term advantages, they're all that matter. Now, Helium has a solid product, a strong selling point, and robust tokenomics. It literally has everything the ideal crypto project should have, and its growth has only just begun. And that's all for today's video. If you found it informative, smash that like button to let us know. And if you want to stay informed about promising crypto projects, subscribe to the channel and ping the notification bell as well. And if you want to inform others about how promising Helium is, then share this video with them. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Nick, out.